Continuing with the characteristics of mysticism in Evelyn Underhill, page 37. So, can you hear anything? We see then that these two activities correspond to the two eternal passions of the self, the desire of love and the desire of knowledge, severally representing the hunger of heart and intellect for ultimate truth. The third attitude towards the supersensual world, that of transcendental philosophy, highly comes within the scope of the present inquiry, since it is purely academic, whilst both magic and mysticism are practical and empirical. Such philosophy is often wrongly called mysticism because it tries to make maps of the countries which the mystic explores. Its performances are useful as diagrams are useful so long as they do not ape a finality, remembering that the only final thing is personal experience. The personal and costly exploration of the exalted and truth-loving soul. Before, what was it, like magic is like prayer to get yourself healed or something, was not considered real mysticism. What then do we really mean by mysticism? A word which is impartially applied to the performances of mediums and ecstasies of the saints, to mendiculture and sorcery, dreamy poetry, medieval art to prayer and palmistry, the doctrinal excesses of Gnosticism and the tepid speculations of the Cambridge Platonist, even cutting to William James, to the higher branches of intoxication, soon ceases to have any useful meaning. Its employment merely confuses the inexperienced student, who ends with a vague idea of that every kind of supersensual theory and practice is somehow mystical. Hence the need of fixing, if possible, its true characteristics and restating the fact that mysticism, in its pure form, is the science of ultimates. Ultimates, the science of union with the absolute and nothing else. And that the mystic is the person who attains to this union, not the person who talks about it. Not to know about, but to be, is the mark of the real initiate. The difficulty lies in determining the point at which supersensual experience ceases to be merely a practical and interesting extension of sensual experience, and enlarging, so to speak, of the boundaries of the existence, and passes over to that boundless life where subject and object, desirous and desired, are one. No sharp line, but rather an infinite series of gradations separate the two states. Hence, we look carefully at the pilgrims on the road, discover, if we can, the motive of their travels, the maps which they use, the luggage which they take, and the end which they attain. Now he has said that the end which the mystic sets before him is conscious union with the living absolute. that divine dark, that abyss of the Godhead, of which he sometimes speaks as the goal of his quest, is just this absolute, the uncreated light in which the universe is bathed, and which, transcending as it does all human powers of expression, we can only describe to us as dark, but there is and must be contact, quote, in an intelligible where, unquote, between every individual self and this supreme self, this ultimate. In the mystic, this union is conscious, personal, and complete, quote, he enjoys, unquote, says Saint John of the Cross, quote, a certain contact of the soul with the divinity, and it is God himself who is then felt and tasted, unquote. More or less according to his measure, he has touched, or better, been touched by the substantial being of deity, not merely its manifestation in life. This it is which distinguishes him from the best and most brilliant of the other men, and makes his science, in Patmore's words, quote, the science of self-evident reality. Gazing with him into that unsearchable ground whence the world of becoming comes forth, quote, eternally generated in an eternal now, we may see only the icy ground whence the world of becoming comes forth. Quote, eternity generated in the eternal now. It's a repeat. We may see only the icy darkness of the perpetual negations. But he, beyond the coincidence of opposites, looks upon the face of perfect love. As genius in any of the arts is, humanly speaking, the final term of a power of which each individual possesses the rudiments, so mysticism may be looked upon as the final term, the active expression of a power latent in the whole race, the power, that is to say, of so perceiving transcendental reality. Few people pass through life without knowing what it is to be at least touched by this mystical feeling. He who falls in love with a woman perceives, as the lover really does, perceive that the categorical term, quote, girl, veils a wondrous, unspeakable reality. He who, falling in love with nature, sees the landscape touched with the divine light. A charming phrase to those who have not seen it, but a scientific statement to the rest. He who falls in love with the holy, or as we say, quote, undergoes conversion, unquote, all these have truly known for an instant something of the secret of the world. Quote, ever and anon a trumpet sounds from the hid battlement of eternity, those shaken mist, a space unsettled, and round the half-glimpsed turret slowly wash away. At such moments, quote, transcendental feeling welling up from another part of the soul, unquote, whispers to understanding and sense that they are leaving out something. What? Nothing less than the secret plan of the universe. And what is that secret plan? The other, quote, part of the soul, unquote, indeed comprehends it in silence as it is, but can explain it to the understanding only in the symbolic language of the interpreter, imagination, and vision. Here in the spark or part of the soul where the spirit, as religion says, rests in God who made it, is the fountain alike of the creative imagination and the mystic. Now and again something stings it into consciousness, and man is caught up in the spiritual level, catches a glimpse of the secret plan, then hints of a marvelous truth, a reality whose note is the ineffable peace. Shine in created things, awaking in the self a sentiment of love, adoration, and awe. It is a life. Its life is enhanced. The barrier of personality is broken. Man escapes the sense world, ascends to the apex of his spirit, and enters for a brief period into the more extended life of the all. Talking about the characteristics of mysticism. Chapter 4. Chapter 4 in Evelyn Underhill.